it come masquerading as your deceased loved one or as your husband or whomever. And the whole idea of the masquerade is to gain the trust of the dreamer. Because ultimately, what the spirit is looking for is to seal a covenant with the dreamer, or the victim, I should say, all in an attempt to have legal right in the victim's life. Because outside of that, the most it can do is entice or tempt and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
once that covenant has been sealed in the dream, and let me give you an example of that. Let's say a person's grandmother, and for the most part, when that spirit take on a masquerade, because it has been monitoring the bloodline for a number of years, that spirit knows who you are close to, who you weren't. So here it is, it knows that you had a very close relationship with your deceased grandmother. So here it is, your grandmother pop up in the dream. Hey, Tish, baby, I miss you so much. And you so overwhelmed and gong ho, you go up to Grammy, supposedly hug her, kiss her, and believe this is your grandmother. Not knowing through your actions in the dream, you have sealed a covenant with that spirit. Now, behind the spirit that's masquerading as your grandmother, could be a spirit of backwardness, a spirit of sickness, a spirit of anti progress, a spirit of infirmity. And you will notice if you don't cancel the dream and allow it just to go on, watch how your life change from that dream going forward. So people who are lacking this type knowledge or who find such information hocus pocus, they will have to learn the hard way when these things actually manifest in their life. So this is why when these things happen, even if you're a novice at this, every human being has this power according to the Bible. And this is Proverbs 18, verse 21. Death and life is in the power of the tongue. So therefore, this death and life doesn't only reign in our physical world, but even in our spiritual world. So when I say to someone, listen, you woke up, cancel that dream. I reject it. I cancel it. What are you really canceling though? Whatever covenant that was established to prevent what these evil spirits are trying to facilitate in your life.
Mhm.
So for the child who would know no better, but the parent who's educated by your book will now say, okay, baby, I understand the dream. And the parent now begin to go and warfare for the child spiritually through prayer and severing every covenant. Now, how does the parent get this right? And how is the child covered under this? Well, in Proverbs 11, verse 21b, and it says that the seed of the righteous shall be delivered. So if the parent is a born again believer, by default, through their accepting of Jesus Christ, the child is guaranteed deliverance. So it isn't a matter of begging for deliverance. Oh Lord, help Pookie, Jesus. Lord, look up for Pookie. I know he rude, but Lord, look up. No, 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 no. So when we go to God now, Father God, this is my child, and you promise me that my child shall, not might, shall be delivered. And so now you begin to exercise your spiritual authority to overcome whatever was trying to overcome your child. Because I'll tell you this, and I'll take a break here.
Mhm.
Because the spiritual world is the parent world to our physical world, and people who practice sorcery and deal with the spirits and so on, they understand this and they realize that in order for them to disable a human in any area of their lives, they know that naturally if I go to fight Trish or shoot her or stab her, there are natural laws that will cause me to be incarcerated for any amount of time or punished somehow.
Mhm.
However, what they do is now tap into the spiritual world where they summon spirits, forge covenants to do their bidding. So they realize that they can get an advantage on this person without this person ever knowing. And how do they do it in one of the most common cases? Via the dream. So if you having dreams where someone is giving you something in a dream, and I'm telling you, it'll when that spirit come to you, and we talk about evil spirits now, when the spirit come to you, is normally gonna come in an area where you have a need. For example, let's say you're going through a financial crisis, and all of a sudden you had this dream, and this unknown person walked to you and put this money in your hand and just disappeared. Now, because you broke like the Ten Commandments and you really need some money, as far as you're concerned, this dream from God. Oh, how thank you, Holy Spirit. You thinking this really God. Number one, you don't know who or what gave you that money. You don't know nothing of that person. You know nothing of them at all, right? The money that you receive, you don't know if it's cursed, you know nothing. Nevertheless, just like the template with Solomon, Solomon received the wisdom in the dream that God gave him to the extent that when he became conscious again, meaning out of the sleep, he now was able to operate in that. So now you're wondering, why are my finances getting worse? But guess what? It only became worse after I had that dream.
Mhm.
So you see now where spiritual forces now was only looking for the agreement. I didn't refuse the money. I didn't rebuke the dream. I didn't reject it. So by default, I agreed to it, which gives the spirit the legal right to facilitate its evil devices in my life.
I like that. I like the fact that you can now share, like you able to let the adults know or the parents know that, hey, this is what happens when you don't um, pull down or cast down or reject the dreams that are inserted within, especially if you don't, if you remember. And if you don't remember, that's even more reason to cast it down. Or, and after you've already casted it down, then you, if you believe that it's a blessed dream, if you only remember bits and pieces of it, of course you accept it as God's blessings for you to receive it, etc., which is wonderful. Now I want us to lay this foundation too, Pastor Gavin, about some of the different types of dreams or categories of dreams that children have. So I want you to talk about that. Like what are some of the dreams that what are some categories of dreams that they have, so that our parents who are tuning in can be aware of it and what to look out for.
Well, that's a very, very good question. And I'm happy that you asked that because a child's dream is going to be predicated on who or what that family worship. Let me
Mm-hmm.
give an example. If a child grew up in a family who are not believers of Jesus Christ, and even more tragically, that family who are not believers, they believe in another deity or some kind of idol worship or practice some kind of sorcery, then that child will be prone to nightmares. They're going to have some of the most horrific nightmares. Now, why is this happening? Well, yes, it's because of whom the family subscribe to in terms of whom they worship. But more importantly, the spirits now that has been allowed to come through this family because of what the family worship, they want to put fear in the child. The reason for this, Trish, is that what faith is to the kingdom of light is equivalent to what fear is to the kingdom of darkness.
I've proven
So,
that.
right. So when
Yeah.
you see a child wake up out of a dream, or just wake up and you see them shaking or pointing and they're telling you they're saying something, they are saying something. Make no mistake about it. Those children eyes are open to the spiritual realm in most cases. So they see it, so they become frightened, or certain places of the home they don't want to go to, or they wouldn't go in the bathroom unless someone comes with them, or all the lights have to be on in the house. So it tells me now this spirit is now gaining traction in this child's life. Unfortunately, the parents who are ignorant to spiritual things, some of them might even beat the child, think the child is being rude because the child's kicking and screaming, I don't want to go in there. I don't want
Mhm.
to be with so and so. Another scenario, it could be a family member who's deep into the occult. The child would be terrified of that family member, and you're trying to figure out why. Why don't you want to go to Auntie Mary? The minute they see Auntie Mary, they literally go off screaming and carrying on and a bunch of nonsense. Now, the sad part about our culture, not just the Bahamas, but this is very common in the Caribbean, especially when the child is having nightmares. We go back to these remedies that are
Mhm.
steeped in sorcery, but we don't know. So what the parent would do is that he would get these black little bands and put it around the child's wrist.
Mhm.
Another thing they would do is that they would get the Bible and turn it to Psalms 91 and put it under the pillow of the child. Now, one may look at these things and say, man, that's just a godly thing. From the surface, it may seem that way. But what they don't know is that what they are doing is a ritual. And this ritual is literally inviting or even opening up the doors wider for the very thing that they think they're repelling.
Oh my God.
Because this advice, or what they call consultation from the practitioners of the altars, these advice came from the spirit, quote unquote, to serve as a remedy. For example, you hear people put salt in the four corners of their home. All of that is sorcery. You're
Hmm.
bringing spirits to your home. All of that. Remember, I told you about the umbilical cord protection
Hmm.
thing. You cut it off, you bury it. All of that is inviting spirits. Why? Because it's a ritual that a spirit requires to have the right to enter this person's life. Whoever's doing it have no idea that they have initiated themselves to the altar of that spirit. So from that point forward, that spirit is going to pull the strings to that person's life.
My God. That's
Now, on
it.
the other side, when it comes to dreams from a person who grew up under a godly foundation, whose parents served God and really into God, the dreams are going to be entirely different. Now, that's not to say they won't have nightmares and so on. And it also does not say that those who are having the nightmares, God wouldn't visit them in a dream, because He will do that. But I'm saying the frequency of it will
Hmm.
be higher in both cases. If it's of a kingdom, family, they will see more of the God stuff, and the opposite is true in the darkness. So the godly one, this person, especially in both cases, if these people are gifted. For example, a person who has a gift, especially when it comes to the spiritual world,
Hmm.
this person will hear, see, feel things spiritually that the other parties, other people wouldn't feel. They will see stuff. They would see an angel. They would see demonic forces. They would hear voices. They're not crazy, but they're gifted. Now, as they grow older, you're going to have both kingdom trying to fight to control this gift. Of course, the gift was made to glorify God, but of course, the enemy is going to fight viciously to try to manipulate this person and now go off on their own thing.